Good to have you with us. Hope your week's off to a great start. I'm Daniel Treff for Arirang News. Let's start with the headlines. North Korea surprised the world on Saturday, claiming to have test-fired a ballistic missile from a submarine. Experts and government officials weigh in on what this means for security in the region. To pass urgent economy-related bills and continue discussions over the civil servant pension system reforms, Korean lawmakers are holding an extra parliamentary session. Can Lee Jae-yong officially take control of Korea's top conglomerate? Experts say not while Samsung chair his father Lee Gun-hee is alive. Due to deteriorating health, it seems unlikely the senior Lee will maintain power. But the younger Lee has yet to prove he is worthy of taking over the throne. Following reports North Korea testing a submarine-launched ballistic missile on Saturday, the South's ruling party lawmakers held an emergency meeting this morning. According to the defense minister, South Koreans want retribution if Pyongyang continues provocations. Our Laah Hyun-kyung starts us off.
Responding to concerns about not having effective missile defense systems, South Korea's defense chief said Seoul and Washington have the combined military capability to counter North Korea's provocations.
South Korea and the U.S. have been sharing information to assess North Korea's submarine-launched ballistic missiles. The South Korean military will halt Pyongyang's chain of provocations through relentless countermeasures.
This comes after North Korea was reported to have successfully conducted a test of a submarine-launched ballistic missile over the weekend as part of the regime's expanding arsenal. At a regular press briefing on Monday, Defense Ministry spokesman Kim Min-seok said the military is seriously concerned about the situation and urged Pyongyang to immediately cease development of weapons. Other military sources say the North will be able to equip the Sinpo-class submarines with SLBMs in 2 to 3 years. They add, though, that it will take Pyongyang about 4 to 5 years to have fully operational SLBMs. The chairman of South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff will meet with General Curtis Scaparrotti, the commander of U.S. forces Korea, on Tuesday to enhance efforts to strengthen deterrence against the recent threat. Laah Hyun-kyung, Arirang News.
Continuing on the topic of North Korea's SLBM, although it may take a while for North Korea to make significant advancements on its submarine-launched ballistic missile, experts aren't wasting time assessing the risks and developing countermeasures. Our Connie Kim reports.
If the reports are true, defense experts say it would mean North Korea has outpaced South Korea's naval strike capability by at least a decade. Industry insiders say the Korea Air and Missile Defense System, or KAMD, and the so-called kill chain, a preemptive missile destruction system, may not be able to deter submarine-launched ballistic missiles, or SLBMs. At this point, Pyongyang's SLBM is believed to have only traveled 150 meters, but experts worry the communist regime is preparing more dangerous long-range weapons. Before North Korean submarines can fire long-range missiles, some experts suggest Seoul needs a new strategy to counter the growing threat from Pyongyang.
One of the options Seoul can take is developing submarines powered by nuclear reactors. But since South Korea will need to start from scratch, they won't be ready till 2026 at the earliest.
Lee says that nuclear submarines can operate for a longer period of time, making them better equipped to track down Pyongyang's SLBMs. Other experts are looking towards neighboring countries and military partners, calling for South Korea, Japan, and the U.S. to increase the exchange of intelligence on North Korea's missile development. The three countries signed a memorandum of understanding to expand trilateral defense cooperation last December. Japan could add 4 more submarines to its fleet of 22 to help monitor the region. In addition, China has recently deployed a nuclear submarine that can fire ballistic missiles with a range of up to 8,000 kilometers. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Well, staying on the topic of inter-Korean relations, as the wage tussle between the two Koreas continues, some North Korean workers are refusing to work overtime at the Kaesong Industrial Complex. Seoul's Unification Ministry said Monday that operations at a number of factories have slowed down due to Pyongyang's unilateral wage hike. In February, Pyongyang demanded a raise for its workers, but Seoul says it's unjustified as wages must be agreed upon through inter-Korean talks. 2/3 of the 124 firms at Kaesong have not issued March wages for workers yet, as the government asked the companies not to give in to North Korea's demands. Meanwhile, Korea's National Assembly kicked off another extraordinary session this Monday, aiming to settle some unfinished business. Bipartisan wrangling stalled reforms to the pension reform bill, but it will likely dominate May's extra session. Our Kim Young-gil has the details.
The two rival parties agreed to continue holding talks on the civil servants' pension bill, but they're still far apart on reforms to the much larger National Pension Service. The ruling's Henry party said lawmakers can't increase public pension payouts without extensive public consultation.
In order to raise the public pension payouts, we need the people's consent. But we know that reforming the National Pension Service is necessary, as the fund will be depleted by 2060.
The ruling party also maintained that these reforms should not be part of the bill to change the civil service pension system. However, the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy is sticking to a previous agreement made with the rival party's senior leaders.
We will not give up raising the income replacement rate of the national pension to 50% in order to enhance pensioner income security.
After facing criticism from the presidential office of Cheongwade, the ruling party backed away from the original agreement to increase the national pension payouts by 10% and attached those reforms to the civil service reform bill. Cheongwade has reiterated that the NPAD's national pension proposal would increase tax burdens on working subscribers and would require more than $1 trillion in taxes over the next 65 years. The NPAD slammed Cheongwade for meddling in parliamentary affairs and held the ruling party accountable for failing to pass the combined pension reform bill in the previous session. The two parties will hold a plenary voting session on Tuesday to approve urgent economy-related bills that were not passed in April. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
And after weathering the Seoul anniversary and a bribery scandal, President Park Geun-hye's approval ratings have surpassed 40% for the first time this year. Pollster Realmeter says 44% of 2,000 Korean adults surveyed last week supported the president and the way she has run state affairs. That's a nearly 5 percentage point leap from a week earlier. Analysts say the increase could be attributed to the Saenuri party's victory in last month's by-elections. Another possible factor, falling support for the main opposition party following its push to link a national pension increase to public employee pension revisions. Approval for the ruling party also jumped to 41%, while ratings for the opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy dipped all the way down to 27%. President Park is scheduled to visit Washington in mid-June. While her office hasn't officially announced the itinerary, diplomatic sources say she'll meet U.S. President Barack Obama for summit talks next month. On her second visit to Washington since taking office in 2013, President Park Geun-hye is expected to seek a stronger alliance with the U.S. and discuss ways to curb North Korea's nuclear and missile development programs. Pyongyang's latest missile tests have heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula, and Seoul will likely face more pressure on the deployment of the U.S. anti-ballistic missile system, better known as THAAD. Both presidents will also talk about Seoul's membership in the U.S.-led Regional Trans-Pacific Partnership Treaty, especially after South Korea recently joined the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. And President Park Geun-hye marked the opening of Korea's 10th Innovation Center in the eastern Gangwon-do province earlier today. As part of the president's creative economy drive, these regional centers are connecting with the country's conglomerates to help local SMEs and startups grow and expand overseas. The president described big data as the new capital of the creative economy, which can create jobs but only with creativity and innovative ideas. She then vowed to set up big data portals and markets to foster the development of experts in this field. Staying on that innovation center, which focuses on big data, the government wants the center to crunch the constant realms of data flowing around the internet to help local firms find more opportunities and boost their bottom lines. Here's Song Ji-sun with this report.
It's a sector that's currently expanding at a rate of 30% a year. That's how big and promising the global market for big data is. By 2017, the value of the worldwide market is anticipated to top $31 billion. The sheer volume of data created online these days can be used to reduce production costs and to set up targeted marketing strategies, but only when the data is analyzed efficiently. That's where Korea's latest Creative Economy Innovation Center steps in. Located on the campus of Gangwon National University, the center will function as a one-stop portal for gathering, trading, and researching big data.
Big data itself is not that valuable. Mining and utilizing that data is what really matters. We'll make Gangwon province a center for gathering and processing data and making the figures meaningful.
For the mission, Korea's biggest internet portal, Naver, will help local startups entering the big data industry. The center will also work in tandem with Korea's other innovation center branches to help traditional manufacturing sectors utilize big data for bigger profits. With all 17 innovation centers set to open the first half this year, and synergy growing between these centers following each launch, the government's creative economy drive is taking off across the nation. 송지선, Arirang News.
In other news, Korea became mainland China's second biggest investor in the first quarter of this year, pouring roughly $1.6 billion into the country. The Korea International Trade Association says Korea surpassed other large investors like Japan, Singapore, and Taiwan, but Hong Kong still leads the pack. Most of the Korean funds went to semiconductors and automobiles. The bilateral Korea-China Free Trade Agreement, which came together in February, encouraged local companies to expand operations on the mainland, expecting opportunities to increase when the deal goes into effect. With this in mind, Korea may soon overtake Japan as China's second largest trading partner after the United States. Now, despite rosy outlook for flagship Samsung Electronics, figures released by Samsung Group's affiliates did not look good in the first quarter of this year due to weak economic conditions. According to market researcher FN Guide on Monday, 10 out of 15 divisions posted lower than expected earnings. Operating profits for Samsung's textile firm Seoul Industries came in at $5.5 million, 86% lower than the forecasted $40 million. Shipbuilder Samsung Heavy Industries also posted earnings 75% below market predictions. It's been a year since Samsung Electronics chairman Lee Gun-hee was hospitalized after a severe heart attack. Many industry watchers have been keeping an eye on the heir apparent who's stepped up to run Korea's biggest conglomerate. For more, we turn to our Kwon So-ah.
Not one public appearance. And not much news on Samsung's number one Lee Gun-hee since his heart attack last year. Samsung and the private hospital treating him say Lee is recovering, but that his cognitive functions have not returned. In his absence, Lee's only son, Lee Jae-yong, Samsung Electronics vice chairman, took up the reins. There had been speculation about a quick succession, but that never materialized. A survey conducted at 17 stock firms found almost a quarter of analysts think Lee Jae-yong will become Samsung's new leader this year. But more than 50% said that won't happen while his father is still alive. Nevertheless, 46-year-old Lee has been actively engaged in the company's management, acquiring 8 foreign companies and meeting with global leaders such as Chinese President Xi Jinping and Apple CEO Tim Cook. Samsung Apple subsequently backed off their patent war. Under Lee's leadership, the company sold 4 less profitable units and kicked off a massive chip plant project. Samsung Electronics turned in its worst performance in 3 years after Lee Gun-hee was hospitalized, but the division rebounded in the first quarter of this year under his son's guidance. Experts predict even better results in the second quarter.
Samsung Electronics' operating profit will be increased from 5.9 trillion won to around 7.3 trillion won. It's mainly because of the growth in the Galaxy 6 and Galaxy S Edge, so new products in Q2.
Although Lee Gun-hee is said to be recovering, many believe it's unlikely he'll return to his old role, leaving his son in the spotlight. Analysts stress Lee Jae-yong still has a lot on his plate. They say he has to identify Samsung's next growth engines to prove to everyone that he can follow in his father's footsteps. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
It turns to some disturbing numbers now. Korea's service industry is lagging in comparison to other OECD members. According to a report by the Korea International Trade Association, the local service sector made up less than 60% of the nation's GDP in 2013, unchanged from 2005. Service industries in the U.S., Britain, and France hover around 80%. The report also points out that Korea's labor productivity is only half that of the U.S. Low production was attributed to the increasing number of workers in traditional service jobs, such as accommodations and retail. KITA or KITA added that Korea needs to improve regulations in order to boost investment, as well as foster promising high-value businesses in order to expand the sector. Great journey, stepping forward. That's the official slogan for this year's 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule. The government made the announcement Monday. The slogan will be printed out on commemorative stamps and coins and used in festivities leading up to the actual Liberation Day on August 15th. Great journey refers to the country's miraculous development from post-war poverty to Asian economic powerhouse. Stepping forward signifies the country's mission to unify the two Koreas in the near future. That's all we have for you for now. Thank you for watching. Do join us again at 10 p.m. Korea time for more.